Ukraine cripples Crimean bridge repairs by destroying $650 million Russian logistics convoy.
Лечу в район зосередження.
Today, in the early hours, a single convoy rolling through fog carried more weight than steel or concrete. It carried time. By the end of the morning, that time would be erased. What unfolded was not a dramatic strike against a famous bridge, but a calculated operation that removed every tool needed to heal it. Nearly $650 million in equipment, munitions, and repair capability would be rendered unusable without the bridge itself being touched. This was not about spectacle, it was about paralysis. The sequence only becomes clear when followed from the very beginning. At 4:44 a.m., the road leading towards the Crimean bridge lay almost invisible. Dense fog pressed down on the Taman approach, cutting visibility to under 600 meters and muting sound so completely that engines seemed distant and unreal. Along this narrow stretch of asphalt, a Russian convoy advanced slowly, bumper to bumper. Nearly 30 Kamaz military trucks moved as a single block, each one loaded with specialized cargo Moscow could not afford to lose. Inside were custom-engineered hydraulic couplings, pressure control assemblies, and industrial oxygen tanks designed specifically for heavy bridge repair. The total value of the convoy's cargo and its layered escort systems approached $650 million, and without it, the bridge would remain damaged for months. Above the fog, conditions were entirely different. At roughly 15,000 feet, 8 high-altitude heavy drones held a loose formation. They emitted no radar signatures, transmitted no chatter, and drifted with deliberate patience. They were not there to strike. They were there to observe, to shape the environment, and to decide when the defenders would be forced to react. The fog below was not an obstacle, it was a shield. At 4:46 a.m., the first move was made. Hatches opened on the high-altitude drones, and a limited number of FPV gliders were released. Not a swarm, not an attack, just over a dozen lightweight platforms descending slowly into the mist. Their profiles were minimal, their heat signatures were faint. This was not meant to destroy anything, it was meant to provoke a response. On the ground, Pantsir S-1 air defense crews reacted almost immediately. Thermal optics swept the fog. Turrets adjusted in short, precise movements. Within seconds, a burst of 30mm fire tore upward, followed by the launch of two 57 E-6 interceptors. Each missile cost vastly more than the drones they chased. One detonated prematurely in the mist. Another struck its target. 2 gliders were gone, and that was enough. In less than 90 seconds, Ukrainian planners had what they needed. Reaction times were measured. Turret rotation speeds were logged. Burst fire discipline was assessed. Most importantly, hesitation was observed. The Russian crews were alert, but they were not synchronized, confident but already burning resources. The convoy continued moving, unaware that the engagement had already begun, and that the defense network had revealed its operating rhythm. At 4:48 a.m., the fog remained unchanged, but the battlefield widened. The Dove Bush T-10S adjusted their spacing, stretching laterally by several hundred meters. The second wave followed. This time, between 30 and 34 additional FPV gliders detached and slid into the mist. Their physical signatures remained small, but electronically they arrived with force. At 4:49 a.m., the S-400 battery's 92 N6E radar activated briefly. What appeared on the screens was not reality, but a distortion. Over 230 false tracks bloomed in seconds, spanning altitudes from near sea level to mid-range. To the operators, it resembled a mixed formation of strike aircraft and decoys converging simultaneously. The commander hesitated, aware that leaving the radar active would expose the system, but shutting it down would blind it. After less than 20 seconds, the decision was made. The S-400 went silent again, forcing the burden onto the Pantsir S-1 units. Thermal optics swept continuously. Turrets accelerated, slowed, and snapped back again. Ammunition counters dropped rapidly. One Pantsir burned through nearly 900 rounds in sustained burst fire in under a minute. 5 or 6 gliders were destroyed. One unit took debris damage that degraded a sensor array. Here, the imbalance became visible. Millions of dollars in interceptors and ammunition were expended to counter machines worth a fraction of that cost. The fog absorbed the flashes. The convoy continued forward, but the defenders were no longer composed. They were reacting. Timelines slipped. Coordination thinned. Above the fog, Ukrainian operators watched the data stabilize into something usable. The system was strained, but not yet broken. At 4:52 a.m., the tempo shifted. This was no longer pressure. This was commitment. A brief encrypted burst went out from the high-altitude drones. The order was simple. Pattern Delta. Just over 40 remaining FPV gliders abandoned their slow descent. Wings tucked. Angles sharpened. Gravity took over. Speeds surged past 190 kilometers per hour. On the ground, Pantsir crews sensed the change before they could fully see it. Thermal displays blurred as targets converged. Turrets spun at maximum traverse. Twin 30mm cannons fired continuously, filling the fog with steel. The sound became a single, tearing roar. The first wave of attackers was largely destroyed. 10 gliders vanished almost immediately. But the geometry was wrong. The approach was too wide. A system optimized for directional threats was forced to defend all directions at once. At 4:54 a.m., one glider slipped through. It bypassed armor and radar and struck the battery's coordination node, the vehicle responsible for linking fire units. The explosion was compact but decisive. Screens went dark. Coordination collapsed. Seconds later, another glider reached a launcher rail. Stored ordnance ignited. The secondary blast flipped the vehicle and scattered debris across the checkpoint. Firelight punched through the fog, turning it orange, then white. Remaining Pantsir units continued firing, but now each crew fought alone. Ammunition consumption became unsustainable. The convoy stopped. Drivers abandoned vehicles. Trucks sat tightly packed, frozen beneath the chaos, while the defensive network lost its center. At 4:56 a.m., the fog glowed briefly and then began to settle. From the ground commander's perspective, this looked like containment. The swarm had been damaged. The coordination vehicle was gone, but the sky was quieter. He ordered the final defensive measure. 4 Tiger M electronic warfare vehicles raised their launchers and fired aerosol screening munitions. These released dense conductive particles overhead, forming an electromagnetic interference cloud. Radio frequency links collapsed. Control signals fractured. Video feeds stuttered and went dark. Nearly 20 FPV gliders lost guidance and fell harmlessly, striking asphalt and steel without detonating. For a moment, it worked. Fire slowed. Ammunition counters stabilized. A surviving Pantsir rotated cautiously, finding no targets. On paper, the defense had recovered. Millions of dollars had already been spent, but the convoy appeared intact. What the defenders did not see was the altitude gap. Above the aerosol layer, the air was clear. Signals remained clean. Sensors functioned normally. And beyond the reach of the interference cloud, another platform had been moving steadily closer, timed precisely to arrive when the ground crews believed the fight was over. At 4:59 a.m., while attention remained fixed on falling drones, an F-16 Block 50 entered the envelope. Flying under 100 feet above the water, it hugged the sea at just under Mach 0.9. Its profile blended with the horizon. For nearly 4 minutes, it remained unseen. The first indication came not from radar, but from a passive detection system. A faint electronic signature consistent with low-altitude navigation was detected, and coordinates began to resolve. At 5:01 a.m., the S-400 battery reactivated. Multiple 48N6 DM interceptors launched in rapid succession, accelerating past Mach 5. They relied on predicted movement rather than full radar locks. Inside the cockpit, alerts stacked rapidly. The pilot banked hard, pulling high G-forces, converting speed into lateral separation. There was no room to climb, no space to retreat. Then the aircraft surged forward, afterburner lit. This was no longer evasion, it was positioning. At 5:05 AM, the GBU-39 small-diameter bombs were already falling, released moments earlier, before the radar picture fully stabilized. 4 separated cleanly, wings adjusting silently. They were not aimed at air defenses. They targeted logistics. One struck the third truck in the convoy, penetrating into a cargo bay packed with pressurized oxygen cylinders. The initial explosion was contained. Then the oxygen ruptured. Temperatures spiked beyond 2,900 degrees Fahrenheit. The fire fed itself. The shockwave ruptured adjacent fuel tanks and hydraulic drums. Atomized fluids ignited instantly. One truck erupted, then another, then another. The tightly packed convoy had nowhere to go. Over 20 vehicles were consumed in cascading secondary explosions. Stored munitions cooked off. Sensors melted. Remaining Panzer units were engulfed by the heat they were never designed to withstand. From kilometers away, the horizon flashed white, then orange, cutting through the fog like a false sunrise. In under 90 seconds, the checkpoint ceased to function. What remained was a scorched corridor and a repair plan rendered non-functional. Nearly $650 million in specialized equipment, munitions, and defensive assets was gone. The bridge itself still stood, damaged and unusable, but now there was nothing left to fix it. Ukraine did not destroy the concrete, it destroyed time. By eliminating a single convoy, it froze repairs, stretched Russian logistics, and turned a strategic artery into a long-term bottleneck. Expensive defense networks were forced into impossible choices, exhausting themselves against tools that cost a fraction of their own systems. As the smoke thinned and the numbers were tallied, the outcome was clear. Russia lost not just vehicles, but momentum and capability. Ukraine gained leverage without touching the bridge itself. Nearly $650 million in repair capability was removed from the operational timeline, extending recovery by months. The question now is not what was hit, but what was removed. If logistics decides wars, how many outcomes are already shaped long before the first shot is fired? Share your thoughts below.